Close your eyes for a moment and imagine this. The year is 116 CE. Across 3 continents, from the Atlantic Ocean all the way to the shimmering edge of the Caspian Sea, one flag dominates the horizon. From the cold, windswept frontiers of Britannia to the burning deserts of Mesopotamia, a single empire stands unmatched, an empire built not just on conquest, but on discipline, administration, diplomacy, innovation, and an unbreakable belief in its own destiny. At its head sits Emperor Trajan, a commander so brilliant and so respected that Rome would reach its greatest territorial height under his rule. But here's the real secret. Rome's success was not the work of one emperor, nor of one generation. It was the achievement of a civilization that learned, adapted, and reinvented itself for nearly 1,000 years. So, how did Rome do it? How did a small settlement of farmers beside the Tiber River transform into the most powerful empire the world had ever seen? To answer that, we must go back, way back, to the time when Rome was not yet an empire, but a fragile kingdom fighting for survival, the roots of a war machine. When Rome was founded in the 8th century BCE, it was surrounded by powerful Italic tribes, the Etruscans, the Latins, the Sabines, the Samnites. These were warriors who fought fierce raids, lightning skirmishes, and brutal frontier warfare. In these early battles, Rome learned its first great lesson. Survival depends on adaptation. Greek influence soon poured into the Italian peninsula. Their armor, their hoplite phalanx, their tactics. Rome absorbed everything, modified everything, and improved everything. By the time of King Servius Tullius, Rome's military system had already transformed dramatically. Service became a duty for every citizen, organized by wealth, class, and armor. Richer citizens fought in the front lines, poorer ones in supporting roles. Rome wasn't just forming armies. Rome was creating a culture of militarism that its enemies could not match. The birth of the Republic and a new army. By the late 6th century BCE, Rome overthrew its kings and became a republic. Freedom came with chaos, but it also came with opportunity. With no king to command the army, Rome developed something far more powerful, a military shaped by constant political competition and continuous warfare. Every general wanted victory, every senator wanted glory, every ambitious officer wanted a triumph, the greatest honor a Roman could achieve. By the 4th century BCE, Rome had reorganized its forces into 4 professional legions, each built on a revolutionary new structure, the maniple system. Unlike a rigid Greek phalanx, the maniple allowed Roman troops to fight flexibly in rough terrain, forests, hills, mountains, the landscapes of Italy. This flexibility helped Rome defeat the Samnites, the Gauls, and countless others. But even greater challenges were coming. Rome versus Carthage, a century of evolution. When Rome went to war with Carthage in 264 BCE, it faced one of the richest and most powerful states in the Mediterranean. The Punic Wars forced Rome to rethink everything: logistics, supply lines, naval warfare, long-term campaigning, strategic depth. Rome had to build fleets from scratch, train sailors quickly, and fight across seas they never had controlled before. They suffered disasters, storms, ambushes, and Hannibal's legendary battlefield genius. But Rome endured. Why? Because Romans didn't accept defeat as a final outcome. Every loss was a lesson. Every setback forced a reform. By the end of the Punic Wars, Rome had mastered the art of the long war. It had become an imperial power in the West, and now its attention turned east to Greece, Macedonia, and the Hellenistic kingdoms. The rise of a professional army. By the late 2nd century BCE, Rome faced a crisis. The old model, a citizen army based on landowners, could no longer supply enough soldiers for Rome's growing empire. Enter Gaius Marius, a general who changed Roman history forever. Marius opened enlistment to the landless poor, giving them training, equipment, steady pay, and retirement land grants. In return, Rome gained something priceless: a full-time, professional, career army. These Marian reforms reshaped warfare completely. Legions were reorganized into cohorts, a more powerful and flexible unit than maniples. Soldiers standardized their gear. Veterans became Rome's backbone, and loyalty shifted, not to the state, but to the generals who paid them. This loyalty would eventually destroy the Republic, but first it would build the greatest military machine the world had ever seen. The age of Augustus and the birth of empire. After decades of civil war, Julius Caesar's adopted son Augustus, better known as Augustus, rose to power in 27 BCE. He understood something the old republic never could. An empire cannot survive without a stable, permanent, loyal army. So, Augustus reduced the chaotic mass of legions to a streamlined force of 28 permanent legions, each filled with long-serving soldiers. He created a military treasury, introduced reliable pensions, and reorganized auxiliary troops into a vital, loyal fighting force. Foreigners who served Rome for 25 years earned something priceless: Roman citizenship. Rome now had discipline. Rome had loyalty. Rome had structure. And most importantly, Rome had an army capable of holding an empire. But military might alone didn't make Rome unstoppable. What truly made Rome the greatest power in the ancient world was its ability to combine law, administration, diplomacy, engineering, culture, and citizenship. Rome's roads connected continents. Rome's bureaucracy organized millions. Rome's tax system filled its treasury. Rome's legal system unified diverse peoples. Rome's religion fused the gods of many cultures. Every conquered land became part of something bigger, an imperial identity known as Romanitas. Rome conquered through force, but Rome ruled through integration. Rome's greatest strength was not simply that it conquered. It was that once Rome arrived, it stayed. Where other empires in history expanded quickly, but collapsed even faster, Rome built a system designed not for a decade, not for a generation, but for centuries. And to understand why Rome could hold such a massive empire for so long, we must go inside the machine that kept it running. The legion, a self-sustaining war engine. A Roman legion wasn't just an army, it was a mobile city, a fortress, a construction crew, and a logistical network all wrapped into one unit. Each legion was home to engineers who built bridges, forts, siege towers, surveyors who planned roads and camps, armorers and smiths who repaired weapons, medical staff who treated soldiers, quartermasters who controlled supplies. Wherever a legion marched, it carried civilization with it, discipline, order, and precision. When night fell, Roman soldiers built a fortified camp every single night. Not sometimes, not when they felt like it, every single night. This practice alone prevented countless ambushes and made Roman legions nearly impossible to surprise. Rome didn't win with strength. Rome won with organization. Beyond the battlefield, governing an empire. Once Rome conquered a new land, the real challenge began. How do you rule millions of people spread across thousands of miles? The answer was a revolutionary system of law and citizenship. Romans believed in the idea of a universal legal order. To them, the law was stronger than any king, any general, any emperor. This idea allowed Rome to unify diverse cultures under one legal framework, a radical concept in the ancient world. The path to Roman citizenship. Rome integrated conquered peoples in stages. 1. Local autonomy. They allowed tribes, cities, and kingdoms to keep their customs as long as they stayed loyal. 2. Partial citizenship. Granted legal protections, trade rights, and limited privileges. 3. Full Roman citizenship. The right to vote, marry under Roman law, appeal in court, and even join the legions. Rome didn't force its culture. It offered it, and millions accepted. This was Rome's secret weapon. Not swords, not shields, but identity. When people felt Roman, they fought for Rome, not against it. Taxes, bureaucracy, and the empire's nervous system. A massive empire required massive resources. Rome borrowed from past civilizations, especially the Persians, and created one of the most complex bureaucratic systems in history. Taxes funded the legions, road networks, ports, grain shipments, aqueducts, imperial palaces, city defenses. But taxes were not the same everywhere. Some provinces paid land taxes based on productivity. Others paid fixed taxes regardless regardless of output. Some paid duties on trade goods. Wealthy elites occasionally faced special levies. At the heart of this system was the census, a detailed record of population, property, land, and wealth. Every few years, Roman officials surveyed the land, counted citizens, and recalculated taxes. It was tedious, time-consuming, and incredibly effective. The best example is the annona, the grain distribution system. This system fed the city of Rome, the armies, and major provincial capitals. It ensured stability. It prevented famine. It kept the empire alive, respecting what they ruled. Despite their pride, Romans were practical. They understood that to rule a vast world, one must embrace its differences. Rome respected local temples, preserved regional religions, maintained native ruling families, integrated foreign gods into Roman worship, respected cultural traditions. This wasn't kindness, it was strategy. When people felt respected, they rebelled less. Rome also created client states, semi-independent allies that guarded the borders. These states fought Rome's enemies before they reached Roman soil. A multicultural army. Rome's army wasn't purely Roman, not even close. Alongside the legions served the auxiliaries, recruited from every corner of the empire: Numidian cavalry, Syrian archers, Thracian horsemen, Germanic scouts, Iberian slingers, Gaulish heavy infantry. Many auxiliary soldiers were better at their specialties than Romans. They provided what the legions lacked: speed, mobility, missile power, elite cavalry. After 25 years, auxiliaries earned citizenship, integrating their families, customs, and cultures into Rome. This created loyalty. This created unity. This created strength. The wealth of conquest. War brought treasure, but more importantly it brought new mines, fertile lands, trade routes, ports, manpower, slaves, and resources. Spain's silver mines filled Roman vaults. Egypt's grain fed the empire. North Africa's farmland powered Rome's economy. Eastern trade routes brought silk, ivory, gems, and spices. This wealth funded armies, aqueducts, temples, public baths, theaters, roads, ports, city expansions. Rome didn't just conquer land, it conquered economic networks. Colonies, Rome's secret weapon of control. Rome's greatest tool for long-term dominance was the establishment of colonies, settlements of Roman veterans who spread Roman culture and law across the empire. These colonies served as defensive outposts, trade hubs, cultural centers, administrative capitals, recruitment pools. Veterans living in these colonies were loyal, disciplined, and deeply Romanized. Their presence stabilized frontiers and influenced local populations. Where Rome planted a colony, Rome planted its identity. The culture of empire. Roman soldiers did not march alone. They marched with language, architecture, religion, baths, amphitheaters, and marketplaces. Every conquered city slowly reshaped itself to resemble Rome. Statues of emperors, temples, forums, theaters, all symbolized Roman presence. Religion blended cultures together as foreign gods were merged with Roman ones. The deification of emperors, beginning with Augustus, added another layer of unity. Roman rulers became symbols of divine authority. Rome didn't simply rule with violence. Rome ruled with identity, prestige, and culture. By the time Emperor Trajan came to power in 98 CE, Rome had perfected its imperial system. For nearly 1,000 years, every reform, every conquest, every conflict had shaped the empire into the most advanced and resilient state the ancient world had ever seen. And now, under Trajan, Rome was ready for its final leap. Trajan pushed the empire's borders to their absolute limit, from the sands of Arabia to the misty forests of Britain, from the Atlantic Ocean to the rivers of Mesopotamia. His campaigns in Dacia, Armenia, and Parthia added enormous wealth and prestige to the empire, and at its peak in 116 CE, the Roman world stretched across 3 continents. But Rome's true power wasn't in the size of its territory. It was in how it worked. The empire had become a finely tuned machine, an organism of roads, laws, military outposts, ports, cities, and cultural links connecting 70 million people. Messages could travel from one end of the empire to another in mere weeks. Armies could mobilize faster than any rival, and local populations, whether in Gaul, Syria, North Africa, or the Balkans, were tied to Rome through a shared economy, shared culture, and shared legal rights. This was not luck, this was design. Even after Trajan's death, Rome endured crisis after crisis, civil wars, invasions, plagues, corrupt rulers, and economic disasters, yet the system held. The Roman model of governance was so deeply built into daily life that even when emperors failed, the empire survived. A 1,000-year shadow. The Western Roman Empire eventually fell in 476 CE, ending centuries of dominance in Europe. But the Eastern Roman Empire, the Byzantine Empire, continued Roman law, culture, and identity for nearly another 1,000 years, influencing Christianity, architecture, warfare, diplomacy, and statecraft. Rome never truly disappeared. It evolved. In fact, the legacy of Rome surrounds us even now. Modern law is rooted in Roman legal principles. Road networks and engineering still follow Roman designs. Concepts of citizenship, governance, and bureaucracy come from Roman innovation. Languages like Italian, French, Spanish, Portuguese, and Romanian grew from Latin. Cities across Europe were built on Roman foundations. Rome shaped the Western world's political systems, from the idea of the republic to checks and balances in government. Modern armies borrow heavily from Roman structure, discipline, and logistics. The empire may have collapsed, but its blueprint became the foundation of Western civilization, the empire that refused to die. Perhaps Rome's greatest achievement was not its conquest of land, but its conquest of time. While kingdoms rose and fell, Rome's ideas endured. Its laws, roads, cities, and culture survived long after its banners faded. Rome mastered the art of empire building so completely that even thousands of years later, nations still look to its system for inspiration. In the end, Rome's story is not just about battles, generals, or emperors. It's about how human beings created one of the most complex and resilient societies ever known. A civilization capable of holding together millions of people across thousands of miles for centuries. A civilization whose shadow still stretches across our world.